1, 0, and liftoff.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Recipe for Greatness podcast. I'm Jay Greenwood. Now, the goal of this podcast is we interview people behind some of the best food businesses or concepts to find out how they did it and what skills and knowledge they used to grow their business. This week's guest is David Templar, aka Temptation, also known as the Shirtless Chef on TikTok. David is a good friend of mine, but he's a bit of a different guest from our conventional food business founder. He is an influencer who talks about lifestyle, fitness, and food. And I wanted to get David on to talk about how you can make a business that is not, the conventional food business, but how you can build a business around that. So creating content, sharing posts from companies, creating brand deals. And it's so interesting. We dive into actually break down what a typical deal would look like and how much money is involved in this. And it will blow your mind that how much money some of these people are making, and that it's not just a hobby side project. This is an actual viable business option and provides great context for it. It's such an interesting chat. We talk about how he's built an audience, how he thinks about content, how he thinks about his life. It is such an interesting listen, and it's always great to talk to David because it is just so interesting. So please enjoy my conversation with David Templar, aka Temptation. Hi David, thanks for joining me on the podcast. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Very good, very good. So I'd like to start chatting about you before kind of where you are now, but I know that you left university, you started off at O2, and you had a really successful career quite early. You were doing really well, making good money. Why did you decide to go traveling for a year?
I think for me, I always had something set out in my life. It was go to college, go to university, get a job, do a bit of traveling, and settle down. And I sort of kept getting promotion at work, and I was putting off that dream of what I thought my life should look like. So it kept going on and on and on. My best mate was wanting to go traveling as well, and we just kept putting it off. He started his own business, and we were like, the time is never, ever going to be right. And until we do it, we're not going to feel fulfilled in what we want to do. So we were like, look, the timing's okay now. Let's just try and do it, go away, get this traveling thing out of our system and see what happens when we come back.
Amazing. And I heard you speak about it, but you came back from traveling, you went back into work and you started doing some work with influencers, and you realized what they were doing wasn't that particularly special, that you could do it yourself. So you started making bits of content, and I heard you talk about that maybe some people from work or people who were close to you maybe weren't as positive as you'd have hoped. How did you kind of feel about people being a bit judgmental about what you're up to?
Yeah, it was really tough. So that actually started before I went traveling. So you know what I'm like. I'm one of these people who just needs to be doing something all the time. I need to have my brain stimulated. I need to have some sort of purpose when I'm doing stuff. So I thought a year out traveling is going to be amazing, but it would have been easy to get into that whole wake up, get drunk, go partying, and just keep doing that. So I thought I need to set myself a little challenge so my brain is active. So I started the 365 days of HIIT workout. So I did a workout every day for a year. And I can remember when I started that, I had like 500 followers on this separate Instagram account that I'd never told anybody about. And when it came out, everyone was like, what are you doing? Like, just go traveling and get pissed like normal people. Just go and enjoy yourself. And I was like, no. And as you say, I was working in marketing functions my whole time in the corporate world, and I'd seen what influence was doing. I was probably a little bit late to the mark, but I'd seen how quickly people had sprung up on it. And I was like, do you know what? Like, if there's ever going to be any time that I'm going to have time to make my own content, interesting content, and just get it out there, it'll be while I'm going traveling. And it did pick up a bit of momentum when I was doing those workouts every single day. But yeah, my best friend who I went traveling with, it was a bit annoying for him because I was like, can you take a photo of me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And actually my housemate who I live with now, I can remember his mate who we were traveling with used to give me stick all the time, but it was only banter. Like, looking back on it now, they're like, we were so proud of you. You stuck to what you were doing. Like, you just need not listen to anybody else. And everybody else giving comments anyway. It's like, did I really care about their comments? It wasn't anybody super, super close to me. Everyone who's close to me was fairly supportive of it.
And how do you think about it now? Because I imagine now you've got a bigger audience, you maybe receive maybe more negative feedback more often. How do you deal with that overcoming those comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me to say, I just ignore it. But I've gone fairly viral this week and there's been a lot of negative comments about it. And I just think you need to be honest with yourself and just accept the fact that you are going to take it a little bit personally, because it's hard not to. But at the end of the day, when you look at the demographic of where the comments are coming from, they're either younger or less educated in the fact that they're less streetwise sort of things. So they don't know the impact that those comments are going to make on somebody. And you do just need to brush it under the carpet, because otherwise you can let it consume you. And you'll start questioning your ability to do stuff. So I think you do have to just take it on the chin. But it's harder to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. And before I want to talk about this week, because it's amazing, but let's give a context about where you are now. So you're head trainer at F45 Highgate, but on terms of social media platforms, can you sort of provide some context of kind of your followers on which platforms and things like that?
Yeah, so I guess my most engaged audience still to this day is Instagram. I feel like I've had people that have been with me through the whole journey. So when I started the 365 days a hit, I've still got people who have followed me through that journey. It's more, it sounds wanky saying it, but I'm more of like a lifestyle person now, as a personal trainer or a wannabe cook or whatever it is. I'm sort of showing my journey through these social media channels for anybody who wants to listen. And there's going to be people who like the fitness stuff. Obviously, there's an element of traveling there, but there's also an element of people saying, look, this guy's quit his job and he's actually made a life off of what he's doing now. So I feel like I've got a big market there. So my Instagram audience is always going to be super engaged. So I think I'm just about to hit 21.5K on there, which isn't a massive amount in the grand scheme of things, but I've got a very engaged audience, which allows me to work with brands. And then I guess the new phenomenon, which is TikTok. I've been on for, I guess, 15 months now. And I think I'm just about to hit 350K today, which again, in the grand scheme of things, there's kids out there who have got millions and millions of followers, but 350 again enables me to do some pretty cool work with some good brands out there. And yeah, I'm sort of reaching, one of my videos has done 1 million views in the last week, and it ranges between about 20,000-30,000 all the way up to 2 million. So that for me is more about exposure, and then the Instagram one is all about engagement and working with that community. And then I've got a little like YouTube subscribership of 2,000 or something like that, which again is nothing to be sniffed at, but it's in the grand scheme of things. So I guess, yeah, probably like almost 400K between all my social media network.
That's incredible. And you touched on it, but this week, what happened that made you become a viral sensation? I mean, I've just clicked onto the internet, the TV, and I've actually seen it come up. So can you tell everyone what's happened?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I got onto the TikTok platform because somebody from TikTok reached out to me. To give a bit of background on it, it was Musical.ly before. So there was lots of younger kids on there doing singing, dancing, lip syncs, whatever it was. And when they launched as TikTok, they tried to diversify their portfolio by getting lots of different people on the platform. So at the time, I think they paid me £250 to create an account and then get some fitness content out there. But what I've done is I've kept that relationship going from the start. So anytime any campaign comes up, I'm putting my name in the hat to say, look, I'll do it. So this one came about, it was called Ramsay Reacts. They had a hashtag Ramsay Reacts, and basically it was asking chefs or wannabe cooks to make some content, and then Gordon Ramsay react to it. So I've got a connection at TikTok. They said this campaign was coming up. I said, it'd be brilliant if you could put my name forward for it. Made a couple of videos, sent it across to his team, and apparently they absolutely loved the IKEA meatballs one, which is actually, I made a recipe that IKEA leaked in the last year, which was the recipe to their meatballs. Anyway, made that, and he just absolutely tore me a new one. He was like saying, why haven't you cooked the flour out? The paste is like wallpaper paste. But no, it's funny. But I mean, so that video that he posted went viral. He duetted one of my videos, which you can do on TikTok. The original video has gone super viral. And then like the Daily Mail have picked up on it. Lab Bubble picked up on it. It was on Lorraine morning TV show, and it's just completely blown up. So yeah, it's been a busy week.
Yeah, amazing. And what happens? So say, for example, something like that, you produce something like that and it goes, like you say, so viral, and it literally does, because I spoke to someone and they were like, oh my God, have you seen on Lorraine? It's on there. So does anything come from that, or is it more just more awareness about you? Do people start messaging you to approach you about things at all? Or
I think for me personally, I've had a lot of brands reach out since doing it, and I'm quite skeptical or like conscious about the stuff that I do. So I mean, it's a massive exposure piece for me. And then people obviously look through your feed and see what you've been doing. So it's kind of good for brands to jump on it if there's food brands out there who want to do stuff. I don't know, for me, I'm not in this game to be famous per se, but it still feels nice when something like that happens. It's exciting. It's like, you know, you put an accumulator or something like that on and you're waiting for your bets to come in. It's something like that. Whenever you put a piece of content out there, you don't know how well it's going to be received. And I think it's kind of gamified the social media industry, TikTok. So you're allowed to be creative, and also anybody can go viral at any point because it can land up on the For You page. So I think it's just one of them. I mean, yeah, I guess I've never had anything that's gone super viral and given me loads and loads of followers. Like, I've probably picked up 10K followers over the last week, but that's an amalgamation of that and some of the other content I've put out. So it's not enough to be like, oh, he's got 1 million followers, and then like, where do you go from there? In Instagram and TikTok, I've been quite lucky in the sense that it's gradually grown over time, and it's just consistently gone like that. It hasn't gone bang and then dropped off or plateaued or anything. So I guess for me, it's an exposure piece. I've got a few content ideas as sort of like a reaction video. I want to go into, when's this going to get launched, actually, this podcast? I'll say it anyway.
Probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, it's fine. I want to go into one of his restaurants and send back the food, but use the excuses that he said to me. So like, give the soup back and say, oh, this is like wallpaper paste.
Yeah.
Like, to get it on social media. I think it's just fun, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
The good thing is if you can work with brands like that to make good, engaging content, that's where it's fun. But I mean, Gordon Ramsay's a huge international brand, and his team keep it quite tight. So I think it's one of them that I just have to do under the radar and take the consequences for whatever I do. But I know there's a lot of people out there who do stage content, which is still funny, but like, I prefer it doing it the way I'm going to do it.
Yeah, a bit more genuine. I can't wait for that one. So I'll keep my eyes peeled. And you touched on it briefly, but I would say, looking at what you do, is very fitness, but lifestyle kind of fitness related. But with lifestyle comes a lot of food. Do you find that you're focused more on food as time's gone on, or do you think it's still just a mix of fitness, food, and sort of everything together?
Yeah, I think content-wise, I'm very much focused on food, just because. So I've got my own online personal training business, and the whole premise of that business is to break things down into its simplest form and tell everybody that's all you need to do. So for me to keep evolving that program just wouldn't be in line with my ethos. So I just basically teach people like calories, macros, compound lifts, the different ways to build muscle, how to burn fat. And when you break it down to its bare bones, it's actually very simple. So I think for me to keep evolving that wouldn't be true to what I want to do, because that's the training I do. I don't want to be absolutely shredded, eating chicken and broccoli, like being super restrictive with my diet. I'm more lifestyle focused myself. I want to go on holiday. I like to train for my mental state as well as looking physically fit. But I don't want to be that guy who just stands by the pool in Ocean Beach, like super shredded up, and everyone's like, "God, look at this guy a beer. He looks boring." So I think it does lean more towards the food side of stuff. I've had a conversation this week off the back of that Gordon Ramsay stuff, though. Like, it's got to the point where it is very, very food focused, and I want to try and do more stuff. Obviously, when I went traveling, I blogged about that. I'd love to bring that stuff back into it. And I think the more fingers you've got in pies, the better it is for you or me as a business. So if I can get brand deals from lots of different companies, but also, like, the whole reason I got into this was to monetize the things that I like doing. Food's one of the things that I like doing, but if I continue going down all the different avenues, then yeah, you're basically just creating a lifestyle for yourself that you don't have to pay for and you enjoy. So it's one of them.
And you touched on it briefly before, because you mentioned about engagement rate, and it's not something I really understood until I heard you speak about it, because you were talking about, relative to how many followers you have, the amount of people who actually engage, watch it. And there's a big difference from, say, some people who have, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions, but no one actually cares about their content or watched it. So what for you is so important about building an audience where people actually want to listen to you and people actually want to watch the stuff you're making?
Yeah, I guess it depends your intentions for setting up your channels in the first place. Like, mine did genuinely start off as a bit of fun, and then I saw an opportunity to monetize it. So I thought, well, the only reason you're going to be monetizing a personal training business is to be personal. That's the whole point of it. You don't get that face-to-face interaction with your client. So you need to be able to do that online. So for me, that was a big open door to say, look, let me just put my whole life on social media, to the point where if I'm pissed on a night out doing stupid stuff, I document that. But also, if I'm being restricted in my lifestyle to get in shape for a photo shoot or whatever, people see both sides of it. And I think that's why I prefer Instagram as a community, because I've got a really engaged audience. For instance, I think, as I just said, I've got 21,000 followers and I got 6,000 views on my story yesterday. So what's that? 6, 12, 18. It's just under a third engagement of your total following, which is ridiculous. And when you go to companies and you can say, I can guarantee you 6,000 people are going to see your product, they're like, okay, fantastic. There's 100,000 followers out there that can only guarantee that. So when you look at Bang versus Buck, obviously with the smaller audience, they can pay less for it. It's just a good way in. Then yeah, I guess TikTok, I can guarantee sort of 20, 30,000 views on a video on TikTok, which again is nothing to be sniffed at. Like if you can go to a company and say, look, X amount of people are going to see this brand, they're going to bite your arm off for it.
Absolutely. And do you see any mistakes, people who these days everyone seems like they want to be content creators? Do you see any mistakes that people make when they start trying to build an audience?
Yeah, I think people want to do stuff too quickly. Like when I look at what I've done and where I've got to now, this has taken 5, possibly even 6 years to get to where I am now. Yes, somebody does post a bit of content, release a sex tape, whatever it is that shoots them to fame, but it's very few and far between. Most people who are successful in this business, they've done it for years and years and years and years, and that overnight success is off the back of putting all that hard work in. So I think consistency is the key thing. Yeah, I posted a video minimum 1 a day on TikTok since I started it, and similarly on Instagram. So it's just turning up when you don't want to, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I've picked up from watching your stuff for ages is you say yes to everything. And how do you think about that? Do you think that that is the best way to approach it at the beginning, just to get yourself out there to kind of taste lots of different things and see what you enjoy?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's funny though, because a lot of the time my instant reaction in my head is like, oh, can I be bothered to do that? But I've got this thing where I just say, just do it and worry about it later. I think there's a few things that I obviously wouldn't do. And I just think as long as you believe in what you're doing, you're true to yourself, you can't go far wrong. Obviously, if you're sexist, racist, joke about things that you shouldn't, whatever it is, then obviously nobody should ever be doing that anyway. But if you back yourself that you've got good intentions, you're never going to, I just think you're never going to come bad off.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, but has there been anything where someone's approached you and you've thought, oh, you know what? I don't want to do this. I don't think it's going to be any good. And then you've done it, and then it's been surprisingly like some of the best stuff that's come from it. Has there been anything like that for you at all? Or
I think so. One of my big things is that I don't want to associate myself with anybody in the fitness industry, and I don't want to collaborate with people just for mutual benefit. I like to work with people who actually believe in, and I like the direction they're going. Hence, love coming on this podcast because I've seen, well, obviously you and I know each other through Gatsby, and I absolutely love Crafty Pies. Honestly, I love following that journey as well. And it's so good to see someone who's come from a similar background to do really good things. But I get people reaching out all the time to say, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Just to like jump off the back of it. I'm trying to think of one. I can remember doing one. I think this is going to be an absolute shit show, but it ended up being quite good. Anyway, it was a collaboration with somebody and I ended up really enjoying it. Got a bit of following off the back of it as well. And yeah, it was one of those things where I think you do need to be a bit more open-minded about it. Not everybody's out there to just try and jump on whatever followers you've got. There are some genuinely good people out there. So yeah, it's tough when you're only meeting people over social media, because a lot of the friendships I've got, I have met them in real life now, but a lot of them start off through Instagram, just through enjoying people's content. It needs to be a bit more open-minded. And I guess I'm a little bit pessimistic about people's intentions. So I think just, yeah.
I was about to ask you, do you find now that you've started to have a bit more success, you're starting to get more following, do you find you have to be a bit more careful about saying yes now to a few things because of time or, you know, what the direction you want to go in, basically?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously I've got this F45 job on the side, which isn't really a side job. It's a full-time job for me at the moment, just because it's all new and fresh to me. So I'm very limited with time. I mean, now the whole point of me quitting my corporate job was so I was on my own terms. I was doing my own thing. But now, since I've built this social media following and companies want to get involved in it, I've kind of got to abide by my brand guidelines and also theirs as well. So there are a few things that I think I have to double check myself before I do it, which I don't want to be doing that. I'd love to get to a point where I'm fully self-sustained, but there's a point in the interim where you need to rely on other people. And obviously money makes the world go round. Sad to say it, but you need that money from other companies. So I kind of have to second take some of the stuff that I'm doing.
And you mentioned your housemate. You've moved in with him now. Has it been a difference moving in with someone who's kind of from a similar industry, sort of content creating? Does that help at all, or is it just more just two guys wanted to live together and it was just easy?
So the reason that we moved in together was because we're really good mates. I met him traveling, and I needed to get back to central London. My last place was just a temporary one that ended up being longer than it was. But from a business perspective, I think, yeah, I mean, it's going to open a lot of doors for both of us. Tristan's obviously on Made in Chelsea, and he's using that as a platform to go on to other things. And already we've made mutual connections that have allowed him to do other bits of work. I guess I've tapped into a new audience, albeit very different from my one. Obviously, I'm not really your Chelsea boy, but yeah, I think the opportunities that come along with it are going to be fantastic. And we've already started a few little projects ourselves. So obviously, I do the chef stuff, making food in the kitchen. He's on Made in Chelsea. So we started a new concept called Made in the Kitchen.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that's going to go. Like at the moment, it's just a bit of fun. It's another feature that we can both put on our channels. But I think there's a fair bit of interest from brands wanting to work with us on that. Like, I can't remember one. What's that grill company? George Foreman, I think, have put a bit of interest in and said, do you want to do a Made in Kitchen using our product? So I think just the possibilities for that are endless.
Yeah.
And our whole idea was that because we're living together, if we can make money through a joint bit of content that can pay for rent, I mean, it's just having fun, making content and paying the bills at the same time. So it's perfect.
And that's the kind of the impression I get from you, is that you love what you do and you actually have fun doing it. And the benefits that come from it, obviously you try and aim for some goals or whatever, but fundamentally you just love doing it and it's what you actually want to do. It's not forced.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think you might come on to this in a minute because we were talking about books earlier, but one of the changing points in my mindset, I guess, was I read a book called The 4-Hour Work Week, and it made me completely reevaluate what rich meant to me. So before, I think I used to be motivated by money, and don't get me wrong, money's great because it allows you to do the things you want. But what it made me realize is that I value time a lot more than money. And if you can give yourself that time freedom versus the financial wealth, that is when you're really rich to me. Like for me, just being able to be like, look, today it's 37 degrees. I want to jump on this podcast. Then I can just go and chill for the whole day. And then I want to go and train clients in the evening. For me, that's perfect. I'm doing everything that I want to do. I'm getting paid for it and I'm happy at the end of the day. So yeah, it's perfect.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on goals because I know that you're bigger on goal setting. I mean, I think this year you're doing a goal every month, but I know in general, you always set goals. How important for you are setting goals and how do you look to set them?
Yeah, I think goals are very important, especially if you're lacking in motivation. Like I'll get up and do whatever I want to do anyway, but I just think that accountability helps you make sure you're always pushing towards something. Yeah, as you said, this year I've set myself a different goal every month, just as sort of like a little short-term goal and it's come at the right time really, because we're very uncertain with what's going on in the world at the moment. And these little goals are helping me get through. I've actually taken a step back on thinking, where do I want to be in 5-10 years time? I just want to try and enjoy what I'm doing now, which again, sounds very wanky, but I don't actually know right now where I want to be in 5 years time. There's loads of different avenues and fingers in pies that I've got at the moment, and it could take a turn at any moment. And that's one thing that I've learned just from doing what I'm doing. Like, say yes to stuff. Some stuff will come off, some stuff won't. I'm very, very focused on F45 at the moment. And I'm really, really enjoying that. And again, I think because that is a big corporate franchise, there's lots of different avenues that I could go with that. So yeah, taking a little step back from longer term thinking and just doing smaller goals that help me keep accountability. But again, just on the lines of doing stuff that I like and that are fun. Like I want to do more TV. Yeah,
Do you ever set financial goals? Do you ever sort of say, I want to earn X amount this month? Or is it always more like I want to post, say, because you can't really control always how much you earn, but you can control you do 20 posts or, you know, you do X amount of something. But do you try do it so you can manage the goals, or is it more just whack down anything and see?
I think a lot of the stuff for me, like, so I've got my F45 stuff that's guaranteed income. I've got like set hours that I do for that. Fine. I've got a couple of retainers with different brands that I know is coming in, and I have to do that content for them. So say the protein works, I've got to do 4 posts and 8 stories to them to get that money. That's all guaranteed. And then I guess the product of creating more content brings you opportunities to gain more money. So in fact, over lockdown, my TikTok's been ridiculous. I've done so many brand deals that have just come off of making that content. So the more engaged audiences, the bigger your following's getting, the more brands are getting aware of you, the more money you can make. So it kind of does go hand in hand, to the point where even this year, I was working on my birthday because a brand deal came in from Pepperami. 1, it was fun. 2, the money was too good to turn down. And that, I think, just like puts it all together. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, to the point where on my birthday, I'd shoot a brand deal and have fun with it. But you're right, like the more you put yourself out there, the more content you're creating, the more awareness you're getting, the more money you can make. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth, I say to myself, create 1 piece of content for each channel every day. And then anything more is a bonus. I get so excited sometimes when I do something funny or like that's good, and I just post it really quickly. I need to get better at that. Keep people waiting.
And you touched on it there, so we'll jump straight to it. But I think a lot of people, when they think about content creators, they don't really understand why people are making content. And obviously they do it for fun, but I don't think people understand the financial side of actually how big and powerful some of these deals can be. So if you're up for it, I mean, could you give us an example of, say, a deal that you might typically get and what that means you have to do, but then also the money side of it?
Yeah. So I'll talk about a couple. So I did one with Pepperami on my birthday. I can't remember what the campaign was called. It was like Eat Your Meat Challenge or something like that. So it was funny, and that's the sort of stuff that I want to be doing. They'll reach out to me, say, look, we've got this brand deal. Are you interested in it? I said, yeah, it sounds absolutely fantastic. I'll then send them my rate card. So I've got a different rate card for TikTok and Instagram. 1, based on the amount of followers I've got, but 2, I guess the chance of exposure you get through TikTok. So I've sort of got like a multiplier. I charge per 10,000 views on it. So I'll do, and this is another thing. So I've got to the point now where anything that I do, I put an hourly rate on. So I know that if I was personal training, I could earn X amount of money, let's say £100 an hour. So I'll build that into my rate. So I'll say, look, this piece of content is probably going to take an hour to film, £120 for that. And then I'm going to charge, I can't remember what I do for TikTok. It's like £800 to post it. And then the multiplier of, I think I'll just do like £75 per 10,000 views. And obviously you go back to the company and you're like, okay, this is £1,500. And then they'll start the negotiation to bring it down. And in my head, I know that I'll settle. It depends what the brand is as well. If it's a brand that I don't really care about and I'm not that bothered about working with them, I'll stay very true to that price that I've done. But if it's something like Under Armour or Nike or something like that came in, I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it for free, but like try and get a bit of money out of it at the same time. Yeah, so that, I guess that's kind of what happens. Then I've just signed a pretty big contract with TikTok. So along the lines of the campaigns that they do, similar to the Ramsey Reacts one, they've got this whole #Learn on TikTok campaign, which is an ongoing campaign, which again is trying to diversify their portfolio. So as I said, there's a lot of kids singing and dancing, lip syncing on there, and they want the platform to be a lot more than that. So they've started this campaign called Learn on TikTok. I originally signed a contract with them for 20 videos, and then that got extended to 40 videos. So that's a big, big chunk of content, which for me is amazing because it allows me to get my knowledge onto my platform. TikTok are invested in it, so they're going to make sure the content goes well. And also I'm getting paid to create that content. So I think sometimes on TikTok, you get stuck in this little rut of, I know what's going to bang. Like if I do like an indulgent dessert recipe, you can probably get 500,000 views on it, but you can't do that every day because it's not, one, in keeping with my ethos of being balanced about everything, but also it's not the healthiest of food, but you just know that unhealthy food is going to perform well. So I'm getting paid to create that content. That's good content. It's going to perform well. And then for me, I can recycle that on my Instagram channel. So I know that my Instagram channel has got, they're interested in fitness and what I'm doing already. So I can recycle that content and put it out there. But it also agrees with the contract with TikTok because they want to push more people onto the platform. So I can say, look, here's the content I'm creating on TikTok. If you want to see more of this, come back into this platform. So it's very clever in a roundabout way how it's, obviously it's a bit of a coincidence that it works like that for me, but all these contracts that keep coming in just are absolutely perfect, and they're working out all right.
Amazing. And I want to touch on a few things there. So you mentioned, was it a ratings card? Is that something that you produce or the platforms produce for you once you reach a certain kind of following?
Oh, so no, so it's a rate card, so the rate of money that I charge.
Oh, okay.
No, I made that myself. And again, because I don't have management at the moment, I'm trying to do it as long as I can on my own. They're ballpark figures. And obviously, that's another good thing about working with me directly. I don't have to give any percentage to any management or another team. So companies can typically pay less to me, which is beneficial for both parties. I keep all the money, they pay less, and it works out all right. But no, that's just something. I've got a few friends that still work with influencers now, and I've sort of asked them to benchmark me against what they're seeing. And yeah, I was massively undervaluing myself until I had those conversations. And it's mad the amount of money that there is for people to pay.
That's what I find. I heard a great quote where it's basically, whatever your highest price is, you then make what you've managed to charge someone. You then make that your minimum, and then you just keep going up and up and up.
Yeah, true.
One thing you mentioned about when you get approached by different brands, and some you really want to work with, and then some you're not so bothered about, but then you start negotiating on price. Do you find that when you stay firm, that you end up still getting the deal, or do they sometimes still fall through if you're, saying, I don't want to budge, this is my price?
So yeah, good one, because I lost out on one which was actually pretty in keeping with my brand, but they were just trying to like absolutely go under what I was doing. And then in the end, I ended up not getting it over the sake of like £100, but it felt better sticking to my guns and not doing it. But it was just annoying that it was one that was actually complement my channel pretty well. You do get people that come in at a ridiculously low price, and you're just like, look, I'm not doing that. There's no chance of doing it. But it's annoying because when you think even a couple of £100 to post a video that you'd want to post anyway, it seems worthwhile. But I think because a lot of work comes through a small amount of agencies, it may be that one agency comes in and says, look, will you do this pepperoni deal for £1,000? And you're like, yeah. And then it's under what you'd normally charge. And then they'll come in with another brand and they'll know that you'll do stuff for £1,000. So they'll just instantly come in at that. And it could be that the company's paying them £3,000 to find an influencer. And they're like, yeah, quid's in, I've just made £2,000 off of that. So I think you do need to be pretty strict with the prices that you're charging. So at the end of the day, you always know that the agency's going to win because they're in charge of the money. They're charging what they need to charge, and then they're offsetting it by you making the content. Yeah. So you do need to be a bit flexible, but at the same time, everyone's doing this for money when you talk about it from that perspective. So, yeah. But again, it depends how much you need the money, right? So you'll see people out there. Luckily for me, I've got lots of different revenue streams. So when something like that comes in, that's pocket money to me. I put it into a completely separate account. In fact, I put all my influencer stuff into a savings account. One, partly so I can manage it, but two, it's additional stuff on top of what I was doing anyway. But there's a lot of people out there who that is their main source of income. And then end up selling out and doing stuff for low amounts of money or whatever it is.
Yeah. And so for example, if you made a video for a brand and it had 500,000 views, you could then charge £75 per 10,000 views. So that numbers do get quite big quite quickly, don't they?
And that's why they negotiate down. Obviously, I know I've probably had less than 10 videos that have hit like 1 million views.
Yeah.
And you know it's probably not gonna, but you need to get the company thinking, oh, this kid backs himself. He could get 1 million views. So then they kind of, you'll find a price that you agree with. Otherwise, I don't do it. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that would just take whatever, but.
And one last question I want to touch on before we go into the little quick fire questions at the end, but is meditation, because I know that I don't know who they were, but it was two ladies, I think, who do a mindfulness thing, and they challenged you to do 40 days, was it? Of like
28 days I did.
28 days. And I know you were very skeptical because it's not something you usually do, but what did you find from that experience? Are you now like pro meditation and didn't benefit you at all? What was your experience like?
Yeah, so this was, I think, 29. What did I do? Anyway, it was 29 days of meditation throughout February. It was the Collier twins, two girls that I've got to know pretty well over the last couple of months. And they're both, one more so than the other, is into meditation. She's done like silent retreats in Thailand and stuff like that. And I just thought, I've heard so many people talking about it, I'd be stupid not to do it. And that's another one of my things. I'm always like, be the science. If you want to know if something works, just give it a go yourself and then you'll know. And first of all, it was really, really hard to get into because my mind is just so active. I can't nap because my mind's always working. I thought I'd really struggle with meditation. But what I did find is that it just gives you such mental clarity. And often when you think you're tired or need a coffee or something like that, You just need your mind energized, and you just need to switch off for a bit, go to wherever it is you go. I actually had a proper weird out-of-body experience when I was doing it. I can remember being sat on the sofa one day, and it literally felt like I'd come up above. I don't know if I was asleep or subconscious or something, but it was very, very strange. Anyway, I did it for those 28 days, 29 days, and definitely saw the benefit. But the annoying thing is I'm not making time to do it as often as I should do now. And I know the benefits of it. I know it's going to really improve what I'm doing that day. I'm not doing it.
It's like life though, isn't it? We all know what's good for us, but yeah, half the time we don't do any of the stuff. So oh, amazing. So yeah, so I've taken up quite a lot of your time. So I'll finish off with some last few questions. So we touched on it briefly there, but I think, are there any books, and I know you mentioned the 4-hour work week, that kind of really helped you on even just your mindset in business or how you've performed?
Yeah. I'll be completely honest. I always joke about this and say I can read the amount of books that I've read on one hand. It's a bit more than that, but again, one of those things that I can always find time to do other stuff. And the interesting thing is, I always justify to myself that going on TikTok and swiping through content on TikTok and Instagram is beneficial for me, because I kind of get content ideas from the stuff that I see. So I'm like, even when I'm not working, I'm working because I'm getting ideas. I know it's a bad thing, I should read, but I've just got a book called Who Moved My Cheese, which is the owner of the F45 studio that I work for. He used to be a big dog in HR world, and he always used to give that to his staff before any team that he built. So I thought that's a good one for me to read. So jury's out on that one. We'll give you an update on that. But again, I'm one of these people who's just like, go and do whatever you need to do to get where you want to be. I don't think one person's experience is necessarily going to help you per se in yours. I don't know, like, are you very hands-on, or have you read quite a lot of literature?
I'm the same as you. I think, you know, there's definitely a balance to be made. That I see so many people who talk to me about theory this, theory that, but I'm like, well, what have you gone and done? And they say nothing, and I'm like, well, completely pointless then, because you'll find once you do it, your view will completely change.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
and those books are only a product of the people's experiences who have actually done it. So I think I can give a lot more knowledge on what I've done, right or wrong, instead of reading a book which theoretically could help you, sort of thing. And again, that's probably me just justifying my ignorance, but.
And what if you could go back now to pre-traveling, or no, we'll go post-traveling, David. What would you say to yourself? Was there any advice you'd go back and give yourself, or would you just do it all the same?
Yeah, again, I'd do it all the same. I think even the bad stuff that happens and how you end up doing all these random stupid things, I think it makes who you are today, next year, whenever it is. I think you need to make those mistakes yourself. You need to, I think part of doing that, if you back yourself to be able to think that that's a correct decision, you've got that winner's mentality. So even if it's the wrong thing and the wrong outcome comes out of it, at least you've backed yourself and you're confident in your ability to make decisions. So I think, again, a bit wanky, but wouldn't change anything. Even the timing of everything, everything, I think the timing needs to be as right as it can be, but it's never going to be perfectly right. So
I think that's the perfect time to end it here, mate. So thank you so much for coming on. As always, I think, you know, I know what an amazing person you are, but just talking to you here, anyone listening will realise what an amazing, fun, awesome guy you are. So thanks so much for joining. And
me, man. Good stuff.
Thank you so much, as always, for listening to the podcast. This one was so interesting. David Templar, Temps, thank you so much. If you guys want to know more about David, then you can follow him on Instagram. It's temp, TMP _tation, TATION. You can just search him, he'll come up. You can find him on TikTok. And if you guys want to learn more about setting up a food business, head to www.joegreenwood.com. But guys, thank you always so much for listening, and it'd be great.